QI. Tonight, we are quintessentially Q, and taking their cues from me are the quirky Holly Walsh. The quizzical Cariad Lloyd. The quixotic Josh Widdicombe.
Don't know what it means. Don't know what it means.
And for the quadrillionth time, it's Alan Davis. And their buzzers are quintessentially QI. Holly goes. Cariad goes. Josh goes. And Alan goes.
Tottenham Hotspur 6, Arsenal 0.
It was a mishmash.
It was a mishmash.
Just for you. Right, here we go. This is a portrait from the Qing dynasty. First of all, how would you spell Qing, anybody?
With a Q.
Yes, Q-I-N-G. So, why is this woman so made up?
Did she walk too slowly through the makeup department at Army and Navy in Guildford?
Oh, that is the most terrifying thing, isn't it?
My mum paid for me to go for a makeover in one of those.
Did she?
Yes.
Recently?
No, when I was about 17.
Right.
I honestly looked like a woman in her late 80s. I actually looked like Mary Berry. That was what happened.
This is a portrait of Prince Zhun. He was the uncle of the then emperor. So we're talking mid-18th century, and his wife, who was called Lady Jinsei. He's about 60, and she's 14.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know, spring and autumn kind of things. But it's very typical of court paintings of the Qing dynasty because it was traditional for the wives and indeed the concubines of the emperor and his family to be hidden from public view. So this posed a problem if you wanted to do a painting because you weren't allowed to actually see what the woman looked like. They had to decide to paint the concubines to look like bits from sketchbooks, basically. We have no idea what she actually looked like. This is entirely a made-up portrait.
Is that why
yes.
It's kind of neutral?
Yes.
Compared to, like, his detailed face. Hers looks like, you know, when you buy a kid a colouring book and it's like, you could add whatever face you want. Like, that's the basic start of the painting.
It looks like they've started on him, they've really nailed it, then they realise they've got 5 minutes to do her face.
She looks like an emoji, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But the whole concubine thing, I mean, it was considered absolutely crucial to Qing dynasty court life. So the idea was you wanted to make sure that the emperor had multiple offspring, so you wanted to make sure he had a very healthy sex life. In fact, in the 1670s, they started a government branch called the Office of Respectful Service. So there's like a guy outside the bedroom seeing how many times a woman has been in and out that week. Wow. So and it mattered because if you went in and out that week, say 3 times into the emperor's chambers, then you would go up in the concubine standings.
That's quite exhausting for him.
For him.
I think when they go in, he's just saying, we can just watch TV and have a chat.
Let's have a cup of tea and a pillow fight. There are some fantastic empresses. So these are the chief consorts. There's one in particular called Empress Cixi. So she started as a 16-year-old, you know how you do, bit of work experience, low grade, you know, concubine.
Hand jobs, getting out.
Well, she started out in the lowliest position, and then she got herself over 40 years to the highest position. She killed quite a few people on the way.
She killed people?
Yes, she did.
With her hat?
Well... It does look like a mortarboard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It looks like a mortarboard with a toilet flush on the side.
The night before she died, and she knew that she was dying, she's thought to have poisoned her own nephew so that he couldn't take power.
Wow.
I know, she's really a vicious thing.
Wow, let's hope the Queen's listening.
What an end to the crown that'd be.
She presides over a period of technological progress in China that is unparalleled because it's the beginning of trains and cars. But it was a real issue for them because she couldn't really travel in a car because all protocol dictated that whenever she was travelling, everybody needed to be at a lower level than her.
Oh, wow.
Sunroof.
Yeah, that would have been the thing.
Holding a hat on like this.
They couldn't have a chauffeur because the chauffeur couldn't sit below her, so that was a serious issue. And then the British decided to give her a steam train in 1865. It only had 500 metres of track. But it was considered too shocking, and it disturbed the feng shui of the areas. The first successful train they had came later from Germany, about 20 years later, and it had 3 kilometres of track, and she used to take it every day to go to lunch, but she didn't like the sound of the engine, so the carriages were pulled by eunuchs tied to long yellow silks.
Why doesn't British Rail pick
I
that
don't
up?
know.
That'd be amazing,
Yeah, that
wouldn't
would-
it? Instead of a rail replacement bus service.
Ladies and gentlemen, many apologies. The eunuchs have not turned up today. We've got the wrong yellow silks, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen.
Never mind about that. We've got the wrong eunuchs today, I'm afraid.
One of them's got a penis. We've sent him home.
Right, moving on. What do bacteria talk about?
Is it Love Island?
Other bacteria who aren't in the room.
I love it when, by complete chance, you're correct. So they are communicating about where the other bacteria are. It's something called quorum sensing. They actually emit and detect each other's chemical signals, and what they basically do is they take a head count to see how many bacteria there are, and they base their activity on how many bacteria they have detected around them.
Like a fight, like there's 10 of us and 4 of them.
It's like the army gathering and going, right, we're ready to go over the top now because we've got enough. Lots of bacteria that cause human diseases, so cholera, pneumonia, staph infections and so on, and they use quorum sensing, so they wait harmlessly inside us until they agree that there's enough, and then they go. It's a bit like social media, right? So one person tweets, but then it is repeated and repeated and repeated until it goes viral, and you have enough to make it a story for a lazy journalist. It was very first observed in the 1970s. There are some bacteria called Vibrio fischeri, and they live in the bodies of the Hawaiian bobtail squid. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
So the squid gives them accommodation and sugar and amino acid for food, and in return, the bacteria gives the squid the most ingenious defence mechanism by glowing all of them all at once and generating bioluminescence. So the squid is able to control this light, which is created by all these bacteria living there, and basically any potential predator that is looking up at the squid will think it's looking at the moon, because the squid can point this light downwards. Isn't it clever? I know. So it's working with bacteria. In order to do this trick, it's called counter-illumination, and the squid can even use its ink to dim the lights. And it's useless for the bacteria to glow unless there's enough of them.
That seems like a really fair payment. Like, you get that incredible party trick just from getting some Like, if I got that every time I'd had thrush, I would...
I am so in love with the idea of getting thrush and suddenly being bioluminescent.
Yeah. It would definitely be literally the silver lining.
Yes.
It'd be
Oh
also
my
a conversation start, because I'd walk in and I'd go, Holly, you look great. Got through the thrush?
She looks like the moon. She's so itchy. Oh, wow.
What I love is that it has another way of concealing itself if it doesn't have enough to create the light. Have a look at this. It is able to bury itself in the sand. So this is the other way of doing it. Look at this. Look.
Oh, wow.
Look, just the eyes, and they're covering the eyes.
That's amazing.
Isn't that beautiful?
And then what does he buries himself, and then
hiding.
does he just wait for the bacteria to multiply?
Yeah, Holly is frankly doing better in the pants department.
Would you bury yourself in sand?
Well, that's how I got thrush in the first place. Grit.
A roller coaster might make you queasy, but what can it cure? Yes.
Thrush.
Actually, that thrush with that thing between your legs, that's going to make it worse.
God, I went and did Go Ape yesterday. It was quite something in terms of the harness, remember?
It's not comfortable.
Been used by a lot of other people.
Are you suggesting it has chafed many thighs?
I'm suggesting that the harnesses can communicate with one another.
So what happens on a roller coaster?
Hiccups. Will it cure hiccups?
I would imagine it might cure hiccups.
I got stuck on a roller coaster at Alton Towers.
Oh, see, my idea of hell.
Yeah, I got stuck in the black hole.
What?
This is the kind of audience I want for my anecdotes.
What is the black hole, Danny?
So it's a roller coaster in the dark.
No.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
If I'd have been there, you would have felt a hell of a lot happier lighting it up.
And it's one of those roller coasters where you're straddling someone.
Sorry, you watch the...
So you get on, and you both in like a cart, and one of you has to sit with your legs out, and then the other kind of sits like...
Oh, OK. And you were the one with the legs out?
I was the one with the legs out.
Were you with the stranger? Did you not mean...
Yes!
Why? Oh! Where are your friends?
I was in a 3, and those two paired up.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to, like, miss out on the black hole, and then we just ran out of momentum. I mean the cart, not, like, the conversation. And we were there for about 5 minutes, just sat there. At one point, you could hear the other carts coming down. It was absolutely terrifying. And then they got us off in the end, and they went, you can have free tickets to go again. We were like, no!
Just a guy had a soaking wet back from where you pissed yourself.
So it is the back that we are thinking about, OK.
Sciatica.
Well, no, something much more painful. Possibly even more painful than childbirth. It's considered to be one of the most painful things you can have in the world.
Kidney infection.
It's kidney stones.
Kidney stones.
It's kidney stones.
They're more painful than childbirth.
I have had them. Unbearably painful. Wow. So in 2018, an Ig Nobel Prize was awarded to 2 urologists who discovered a really quick way to quash kidney stones. So they had several patients who said they'd passed kidney stones when they were on a roller coaster. So they made a silicone cast of a kidney. They filled it with actual urine. They added 3 artificial kidney stones, and they took it on Disney World's Big Thunder Mountain. And apparently, most effective is riding at the back of the coaster. Passage rate of 64%.
Wow!
Yeah, compared to 17% if you sit at the front. So much better to sit at the back.
Is there somewhere, like, just pictures of 2 people than a picture of a kidney on a roller coaster?
Anyway, the roller coaster study, not the first time that frightening rides have been used in medicine, so this is bizarre. In the 1920s, doctors prescribed scary plane flights to cure deafness.
What?
There was a theory that some deafness had psychological origins and you could overcome this by being terrified.
He thought he was just going out for a bike ride.
Well, what they were told as they got onto the flight was that it was the altitude that was going to cure them. They were not expecting any acrobatics. So you can imagine when they did a loop-the-loop, that if it was psychological, the deafness definitely went. Everybody could hear them screaming at that point. Yeah. Even the great aviator Charles Lindbergh advertised deaf flights on his business card. It was considered quite
So did it
a thing.
But
There's no evidence that it worked at all. None. Now, what can you tell me about Philip the missionary's position?
I once sat behind him on a roller coaster.
Who's Philip the missionary, also known as Philip the evangelist? Anybody had a religious upbringing at all?
I can sing Lord of the Dance, if that's what you mean.
That's so tempting.
Go on.
No, why did
You
I say
brought it
that? Dance then, wherever you may be.
I am the God of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you there, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he.
So, in a word, no idea who he is.
Is he in the Bible, then?
Which bit of the Bible?
It'll be in the New Testament, surely.
It's in the New Testament,
Yeah,
you're
New
absolutely right. He's in
Testament
Acts. He's an evangelist. So he tours the Middle East, performing miracles and
Well, you
preaching.
couldn't get tickets, though, could you? It's hard.
So here's...
It's so weird when you've got all your hair is on the bottom of your head.
It does look like you could flip his head, doesn't it? Just flip it over like that.
And then your mouth will be at the top, though. That'd be weird. And your eyes will be under your mouth.
Yeah.
And every time you ate, you get food in your eyes. But at least your hair will be in the right place. But when it rains, all the water will go down your nose.
It'd be so beautiful. It'd be like the those fountains in what are those fountains called in the fountains called in Las Vegas where they Bellagio. My God, I cried when I saw those.
They're the ones where they fire out and land in a hole.
No.
They're my favourite films.
Honest to God, it's like being in an old people's home.
He toured the Middle East, did he?
Oh, he toured the Middle East.
Right. Josh wants to sing Lord of the Dance again.
I saw a fountain once.
Did you?
OK.
So he toured the Middle East.
So it's
Tell us about the dark room again.
When we going on a roller coaster?
You said we was going on a roller coaster. I never pissed myself.
I've got thrush.
Who pulled the train? What kind of person pulled the
Eunuchs!
train? Eunuchs! So, this is him baptising a eunuch. Here's what happens. When the eunuch lifts his head up...
Oh, I didn't know what you were going to say. I really didn't.
So what happens is the eunuch lifts his head up, he's been baptised, and Philip has disappeared. So the eunuch never saw him again, but went away on his way rejoicing. Meanwhile, Philip found himself further north at the town of Azotus. So it seems to provide the Bible's only example of teleportation, because there's a moment he's there, and the next minute he's in a completely different town. So here's the question, Philip aside.
Yes.
Do you think that humans will ever teleport?
Yeah.
Yes, OK, Holly, why?
If you think about it, 10 years ago we didn't have Uber, and now we've got Uber.
Yeah.
And that's as good as teleporting.
Yeah, that's just the thing.
There's been times when I don't remember how I got home, and then I've looked at my emails and I realised I got an Uber receipt, and I thought, that's as good as...
Teleporting.
Yeah.
Well, here's the extraordinary thing, is that we have already done it, although not to ourselves. We are heading into quantum physics, but fear not, it is not difficult at all. So quantum physics is essentially the study of extremely small particles, so atoms, electrons, photons, which are...
Molecules?
Light particles.
Light particles.
So, in 2017, China teleported information from a photon into outer space using a process called quantum entanglement. So, now, let me explain this to you. I want you to imagine this is a single energised photon. What you can do with a photon is you can fire it from a laser into a crystal, and you can effectively turn it into two not quite so charged photons. So you have to imagine now that this is two photons, but they are effectively still the same banana, the same photon. It's just that we have separated them. Now, I'm going to take this bit of it and I'm going to chuck it to you, Carrie. So I need you to imagine that you are in a spacecraft, you are 500 kilometres away from the Earth. You're in a Chinese spacecraft. You ready?
Yep.
There we go. Fantastic. OK.
Tell you what, at least you didn't make a meal of it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write something on this. And this is the astonishing thing. It is 500 kilometres away. I have written Alan. If you then show yours, imagining that it is now 500 kilometres away, it too says Alan on it. Whatever you did to the photon that is left on Earth, exactly the same thing will happen to the photon that has gone out into space. And we don't know why. We shouldn't feel bad that we don't know why. Einstein did not understand it at all. It freaked him out. He called it spooky action at a distance.
Oh, I get it. Now I get it.
So here is the weirder thing. We could pair this bit of banana, if you like, with an orange.
Wait, we're pear, orange or banana?
If I then did something to the orange, it too would appear on that bit of banana. I'm trying to use fruit as an example, but basically I could pair another photon, a third one, to this one on Earth, but it is still having the same existence.
God, I feel really weird.
So you basically, when you teleport, you're going to make a version of yourself elsewhere, and then you can do whatever you like to it.
In a way, you're right, Alan. The trouble is that we just don't know enough about it.
I do know, though.
What
I
do
know
you
what
know?
it is.
OK.
2 words for you.
Yes.
Fax machine.
Is how you've kept so up to date.
I did a documentary about quantum physics for Horizon.
Did you?
I can highly recommend it. I learned a lot, but
Yeah.
it's...
Go on.
Once all the experts had left the room, oh, my God, you can't really retain it or use the knowledge. They showed me a laser beam split in two in the National Physics Laboratory, and they told me that it was impossible, and then they did it.
Were you at a magic show?
Then they chopped Debbie McGee into it.
Hopefully it's on YouTube, and you could watch it.
I will check it out. Anybody know why teleporting took place in Star Trek? What was the reason for it?
Oh, was it like a budgetary thing for the show?
Yes.
They didn't want to have to show the transition.
It was too expensive to show the Enterprise always landing and taking off on different planets. So Gene Roddenberry, who was the creator of Star Trek, that was his workaround. They simply couldn't afford for
doing a background. Carry on.
I thought you were making sex noises.
Wow, Holly, it really has been a while, hasn't it? Holly has
Don't do that while you're in the dark room. Coming from another car elsewhere.
No, that other car is singing Lord of the Dance, make it slightly closer.
I'm trying to explain quantum
I know, you're doing very well. When's lunchtime?
Watch the Horizon documentary. Move on.
All right.
If any topics come up with shows that I've done, can I plug them as well?
Yes, darling. It is seriously like an old people's home now, isn't it? Oh, I used to be on the television. Oh, yes, years ago.
I've got thrash.
Right, moving on. Where would you go for a 6-week quickie? Josh?
Alton Towers.
So what kind of quickie things are there that you might do in 6 weeks?
A quickie in 6 weeks.
Divorce, quick divorce.
Oh,
Yeah, so...
6 weeks.
From the turn of the 20th century, people travelled from all over America to Nevada. It was the place to go for a quickie divorce. So they reduced the residency requirement for seeking divorce from 6 months to 6 weeks. And also, they made it fantastically easy. There were 9 grounds why you could get divorced. They applied them unbelievably broadly. There was a man who got a divorce on the grounds of extreme cruelty, and it was because his wife had too many cats. I mean, it really was.
She had too many cats?
Yes.
Did they name how many?
They didn't say how many. For me, 1.
2. There's one there. I go upstairs. There's another one.
And this carried on right up until the 1970s. In fact, they think it's how the state survived the Great Depression, because no other state allowed such lax grounds for divorce, and they were divorce hotels where you could go and the couple could do the 6 weeks of residency. They especially targeted women, and dude ranches were developed, where women would go for 6 weeks sunbathing, riding horses, drinking cocktails, fraternising with the famously attractive male staff. It was marketed as Renovation because it was in the town of Reno. It was one of the most popular places. And women would often arrive with a male cousin who they married as soon as the divorce went through. They held an annual wedding derby to see who had officiated at the most marriages in a year. And 1947 Judge William McKnight won. He had officiated at 5,888 weddings, pretty much 16 a day.
Whoa.
Just going through. And now for a classic snack to go with a classical question. So, anybody got some snacks here? OK.
I'm looking forward to these.
Yeah.
How can you squeeze the maximum number of quavers into the smallest possible space? Yes, Josh.
Oh, no, Josh! Is this...
Yeah.
I want to share yours now, Sandy.
Oh, my.
Unbelievably delicious, isn't they?
Yeah.
Bad luck.
I like twiglets. I met a man in Sainsbury's dressed as a twiglet.
You were dressed as a twiglet.
No, I didn't even know it was a job you could do. I would have definitely done it. Anyway, quaver, where do we get the word from, do you think, the actual word quaver?
Is it French?
No, so we're going to go Middle English. What do you think it meant to quaver?
Middle English, did you say?
Middle English, yeah.
What, so quavers have been around since medieval times?
No, the word. I think this batch has been around since medieval times.
It
Honestly.
means a quiver?
It does mean to shake or to
shake.
It's
tremble.
a letter S. Look at that. Isn't that weird?
Oh.
You are so easily pleased.
Oh, this is...
That is how I imagine the scene from Alan's documentary.
So it began as a meaning of shake and
Shake.
tremble. Then it became singing in a sort of tremulous voice. Do you remember when women in church always...
Wherever you may be.
Yeah, it's like Josh was in the room. And then it became the name of a musical note. Anybody know how long a quaver
Is it quarter?
It's an eighth. There are semi-quavers, which are 1/16th, followed by a demi-semi-quaver, which would be a 32nd, a hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is 64th, and a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is a...
Danish wizard.
120. We almost went for the same flavour.
What did you say, Josh? What did you say? 128?
128.
128. So these notes are quite rare.
Why is it so rare?
So it's rare because it's so fast. So if you took a work in 4/4 time, so with a tempo of 100 beats per minute, a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver would last for just 0.02 seconds. So that is too short for the human ear to distinguish.
Oh, yeah.
But in fact, Beethoven and Mozart used them to describe brief, rapid sections in particular movements. The shortest note in any published work is a 1024th note, which should be called a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
That's his brother.
Yep. And it appears in Anthony Philip Heinrich's Toccata Grand Chromatica, which is written around 1825.
Somebody's pleased with themselves, isn't it? I've used a semi-demi quiver.
Those glasses look no use to anybody, do they? They're too small.
They're smug glasses. They're intended to make you feel stupid.
So this is one of the rare uses of this 1024th note, but in the very first manuscript, an extra bar was added to the note, which meant it was actually miswritten as a 2048th note, which would be a demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Look at that. That is... I mean, how fast would that... Ridiculously.
Madness.
Yeah, bonkers.
So could we hear? Like, what's the shortest note that we could hear?
There is a thing called Extreme Piano Channel on YouTube.
Whoa!
Where it is...
Do you know what else is on YouTube, Sharon?
You've all got some instruments beside you. Why don't you bring out your instruments? What I want you to do, you've got 5 seconds. I want you to play the same note as many times as you can and count how many times.
Counting and playing.
Did you used to do that game at school where you'd try and start a stopwatch as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that game and it was so good.
OK, ready? 5 seconds, going now. Up. OK. Holly, how many? Alan.
Alan, the bus is here.
How many, Holly?
I lost count about 12.
After about 12, Alan? You've no bloody idea. Carry on.
34.
34?
Honestly,
Yeah?
37.
Oh, Josh wins that one. That's
I mean,
very
it's
impressive.
a hollow victory if you happen to give your own score when you know what the other scores are.
And most piano key presses in 1 minute is 824, which is 68.5 every 5 seconds. It's a Portuguese-American pianist. He's astonishing, called Antonio Domingos, and you can see his work on Extreme
Did you do
Piano.
it in...
Does he just do all the same notes again and again, or is it like a tune?
No, it was just one note, but he played it with 2 fingers. Most claps in a minute? How many claps do you think?
Well, the flamenco people
About
can go very, very
400? No, 300.
About 300, anybody else?
200.
1,080.
Wow.
By a 9-year-old.
What?
I know.
No. He's called Seven Wade. 180 every 10 seconds.
Well, just for fun. He's not even doing flamenco.
He had his toe in a plug socket.
I absolutely love him in my audience on tour.
Right, quavers away, instruments away. For what sort of business would you want to use a queer plunger?
I once had a nightmare with a plunger. So we had a New Year's Eve party, and then the next day our toilet was blocked. And I thought, I'll nail this. I'd never used a plunger before.
Right.
Difficult to use.
Yeah, I thought I'd just whack it down there. Whacked it down, and it suctioned just onto the bottom of the toilet. Brought it up. All I had was the piece of stick. And now I didn't just have to unblock the toilet, I had to get my hand in there to get the plunger.
OK, so queer plunger, what might you plunge into?
The ocean.
Well, so water. You might plunge into water. It was a term given to con men who took advantage of the rules of the Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned. So, set up in 1774 as the 2 London doctors, they were worried that too many victims were being wrongly pronounced dead and sometimes buried alive. And so they developed new techniques of resuscitation. They offered a reward of 4 guineas, which is over £500 today. It was a lot of money, to anybody who successfully brought a drowned man back to life. Well, swindlers paired up with each other. So one would throw themselves into the river and pretend to drown, and the other would jump in and rescue him from the brink of death, and the two of them would then share the 4 guineas. And they became known as queer plungers. How many of you around the table know about W.C. Fields?
Yeah, the cricketer.
No.
That's W.G. Grace.
He was an amazing early 20th century actor and comedian. One of his very first jobs was to drown several times a day. So he worked at Atlantic City, and he would pretend to swim out, and then he would pretend to drown, and somebody would come and rescue him, and a great crowd would gather, and they'd all applaud because he'd been saved, and they were all so thrilled. And then they would buy beer and hot dogs, and it was the beer and hot dog guys who paid W.C. Fields to drown several times a day. The Netherlands was the first country to have a society for resuscitation. Why the Netherlands?
People falling in canals.
Lots of water, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a really simple answer, isn't it?
They have fjords as well.
No,
No.
don't have fjords there.
Have you?
For God's
No.
sake.
No. You know, Netherlands is famously flat and fjords are famously steep.
Right.
So, no.
You know what? I'm just glad I didn't say it on national television.
No, that's a good thing. So the very first society, 1767, the Netherlands Society for Resuscitation, and they had incredibly strict rules about what you should do in order to bring a drowning person back to life. So first of all, you've got to take them inside, and you've got to take their wet clothes off, and then you've got to rub them with woolen materials to warm them up. And maybe, if you really feel it's necessary, give them tobacco smoke up the rectum.
They used to do that in London as well. Do you know how I know that?
Yes.
We had it on this show
It
about
did
Spartan.
indeed. It was considered an effective means of resuscitation.
My sister fell in a canal.
Did she?
One of the best days of my life. So we went on a canal holiday in Birmingham, and
Does that go through fjords?
it's got more miles of canal than Venice, Birmingham.
I do know this.
Doesn't make it a better holiday.
No.
And my sister fell in, and there was panic, and my dad was shouting, "Get the camera! Get the camera!" And then she found her feet, because it was only about that, and my brother threw the plastic polo, and it hit her on the head and knocked her out.
I thought you were going to say your brother threw her the camera.
So there were other things you had to do. You had to do bleeding for the arms and neck. You had to pour liquor down the throat and then place the person in a preheated bed with a naked person next to them.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, to provide natural
Yes,
heat.
yes, because that's what happens when you're a keen bivouacker, like I was as a teenager. You,
No wonder you got thrush.
you learn that if somebody gets quite severe hypothermia, that you should both strip off, get inside a plastic bag together, and just keep each other warm.
OK, who told you this?
Was it someone holding a massive bin liner?
Come on, Holly, come on, in you come.
We've got to stay warm, Holly. Our Kayla said.
Is this why you're at Go Ape? Yes.
Now we come to the quintessentially QI brand of torment that is general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the tallest building in Europe?
The Shard.
Isn't the Shard?
Well, it is the Shard.
I'm in charge. It's not the Shard. I will give you that the Shard is the tallest building in the EU at the time of recording. Possibly not at the time of broadcast. The top 4 are all in Russia.
Oh.
The Lakhta Centre in St. Petersburg tops the list at 463 metres. Look at that, it's astonishing. Tallest building in the world, anybody know?
I think I went up it in Dubai.
Yeah,
It is in Dubai, you're absolutely right. It's called the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
This is astonishing. It is nearly a kilometre high, and it means that at the top of it, the sun sets more than 3 minutes later than at ground level. That is how high the building is. And during Ramadan, there are clerics who have pointed out that Muslims who live and work there, they have to stop fasting at different times depending on what floor they're on. Yeah, so there's one Dubai cleric. He reckons that people living above the 80th floor should fast for an extra 2 minutes. And those on the 150th floor and above should fast for an extra 3 minutes.
I was doing a gig in Dubai, and with Jack D, we went up to the top of that. But you've never seen someone less excited.
Europe's 4 tallest buildings are all in Russia, with the Shard coming in a paltry 5th. What shouldn't you do to a sleepwalker?
Kill them.
Absolutely fair. Shouldn't do that. That's one thing.
Oh.
Go on, say it. Go on.
Yeah, it's wake him up, isn't it? Oh, that good work undone.
You were winning up until then. Now you're stuffed. Contrary to popular myth, there's nothing wrong with waking a sleepwalker. I mean, they might be slightly disorientated at first, but it's much safer than leaving them to walk around the corridors unconscious.
It's just not as funny.
Depends how you wake them up.
Yeah, boo.
If you wake them up by picking them up and putting them in the middle of the road.
Here's the thing, injuries are not uncommon. Injuries are not uncommon amongst sleepwalkers because they walk into things and it's better to save them. Although, here's the thing, the most recent studies show that you don't feel any pain when you are sleepwalking.
You're just so relaxed.
You're just very chilled. Of the 47 sleepwalkers in this study who reported suffering an injury while they were asleep, only 10 actually woke up. There is a thing where people actually act out their dreams.
Yeah.
So sleepwalking tends to happen at the deepest stage of sleep. There's another disorder called REM behaviour disorder, or RBD. So what they do is that people often crawl or run in their sleep. So
My granddad used to cycle. He used to kick the covers off and his legs would be going like that, and my granny would be like, "Stop it, Bill, stop it!"
He won a stage of the Tour de France.
I had a dream the other day that I was in New York and my husband said I was lying in bed doing this.
What was that, darling?
I think it's just me walking down a sidewalk.
I love it that when you go to New York, you get a kind of American-Italian attitude.
Did you think you were in Saturday Night Fever? If you see someone sleepwalking, wake them up before they hurt themselves. What age did women tend to get married in the olden days, say 300-400 years ago?
So that's like, what, 1700?
Wow. Maths and geography.
It's an irresistible package.
So what do you reckon? How old do you think women were when they got married?
Is the picture a clue?
No, it's just a really cute picture.
Oh, OK.
Is it older or younger? It's either going to be 14 or 28.
What do you want to go?
I'm going to go 28.
You're going to go for 28.
Is it older than we think? Is it sort of like 25?
It is older than we think, so we're talking about 1700s.
21.
So I was right, thank you. Can I get a point for that?
You're lucky still to be having a chair, frankly. The average age for women was 25 to 26 to get married. Men were 30. So, and then that was actually older than in the 1970s.
Even all those men coming out of that tent on the right with the hats. Tiny people marrying. Ding, 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 ding.
I didn't know you sang theme tunes.
It's a show called Tiny People Marrying that I did. It's on YouTube. I'll find it for you.
That's interesting.
Thank
in
you.
Pride and Prejudice, what's the name of the vicar? Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins. So Mr. Collins, it's always played as like this 45-year-old man, but he was actually about 28.
In the actual book.
In the actual book, yeah, but we have warped this sense that they're all much older.
I mean, I think we get a lot of it from royal marriages. So this picture is Richard II and Anne of Bohemia, so they were 15 and 16, respectively. For the average person, they were much older. Even in medieval times, women didn't marry till their early to mid-20s.
But also with the royal marriages, they would be married, but then they would be...
Well, sometimes they got married at birth.
Yeah, exactly. Then they weren't, like, put in a flat together with some toasters and a kettle.
Today, the average age for women in the UK to get married?
62.
30?
29.
It's 31 and men are 33. But apparently the best age to pair off is 26.
That's interesting.
So there's a Princeton professor called Tom Griffiths, and he has proposed that this is the best age because you are 37% through completing a task within a set time frame. And at this point, you have reached the perfect point in which to decide.
It's probably the worst marriage proposal.
It is, yeah. What they're suggesting is if you choose too early, you're going to miss out on better options later on. If you choose too late, better options will already be off the table.
Oh.
There's similar maths choosing the best toilet at a music festival. To maximise the chances of getting a clean one, apparently the same maths works, because you don't want to waste time looking at them all. If there's a row of 100, you should check the first 37, OK? And decide which is the cleanest of those, and as soon as you find a cleaner one than that, use that one. So you still have to look at 38, 39, 40 toilets.
I've got a system with festival toilets.
Have you?
So you stand and you wait, and you look at... As people come out, if they can look you in the eye, that toilet's fine. If they look at you and they kind of, with a kind of fear, don't go in that toilet.
I'm the same with planes. When you see the pilot come in, if they can look you in the eye...
Choosing a partner is a lot like choosing a portaloo. You might end up wishing you'd just done it in the woods. All right, final question. What activity causes carpal tunnel syndrome?
Masturbation.
Well, I should hope it's not masturbation, because my grandma had it and she didn't seem the sort.
It's an RSI thing, right? Isn't it quite common with typing and that sort of thing?
Who knows what carpal tunnel is?
It's where the tendons get inflamed.
Yeah,
on
so
your
it's the
wrist.
canal
Yeah.
that connects the arm and the hand that's in
Yeah.
the wrist, and various tendons pass through it.
Yeah.
And what happens is, when one of these swells up, it compresses on the nerves that are inside this channel, and it leads to pain, numbness, and tingling. And
It's
that is-
really painful.
It's unbelievably painful. You won't get it pretty much from typing or from playing video games or any of those things. Those cause problems like tendinitis.
Yeah.
It's idiopathic. So idiopathic means we don't know. It is an unknown cause, the swelling.
Oh, yeah, I'm still wrong twice.
And that's been our pleasure. But the chances of getting it are increased with obesity, pregnancy, smoking, arthritis, diabetes, any of those things. The only work-related activity that we absolutely know it is related to is the long-term and repeated use of vibrating hand tools.
So in a way, Alan was right.
In 2018, Kim Kardashian, she revealed that the doctor had warned her to stop taking selfies because she had injured her wrist from doing so many. So when she was filming an advert, she recruited one of her production assistants to take her selfies for her. Now, this is a marvellous concept, to have somebody, you're so rich, that you have your own selfie taker. So I have decided we need a selfie elf. So, Anna, if you're going to come on, please, and be our selfie elf. Yep, thank you very much. Oh. So I've got to stick now. So if you could all come in for the selfie. No, it'll just...
I reckon this is going to be more popular than the Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I got this. But you can't be in it, darling. No, because you're the selfie elf. I'm not having you in it. No. It's not a thing. So, are you in? Are you in? If you're taking selfies or playing computer games, you won't get carpal tunnel syndrome, but you should probably get out more. Which leads us to the scores in first place with... Oh, no, it's supposed to be on here. Where is the thing? Oh, there it is. In first place with 2 points, it's Holly! In second place with 1 point, it's Carrion! In third place with -5, Josh! And in last place with -27, it's Alan! Thanks to Carrier, Josh, Holly and Alan. And I leave you with this quintessentially QI quote from quondam quipper Oscar Levant. What the world needs is more geniuses with humility. There are so few of us left. Good night.